Welcome to Permission to Thrive. I'm your host, Suzi Lula. As a spiritual therapist for over 20 years, I have the honor and privilege of ushering women and mothers just like you on a journey from simply surviving to powerfully thriving. I also have the honor of raising our son, Will, who is now a young adult, with my longtime partner, Jamie, so I'm right there on the journey with you. Consider this your personal sanctuary, your space to meet your heart, embrace your messy, and come home to your most authentic, extraordinary self. My hope is that you leave resourced and inspired because you are here to shine. Welcome to Permission to Thrive. Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Permission to Thrive. I'm so happy to be with each one of you. Today I'm going to be talking about rest as sacred, rest as a way of life, rest as a spiritual practice, and the importance of rest in my own life and the importance of rest in your life. Many of you may already know I am facilitating my first in-person retreat in Los Angeles in a few weeks in October. And this entire retreat that I call Sanctuary is designed around the idea of the importance of rest, the power of unplugging ourselves from the best of our busy, active lives, and the power of what that gesture of unplugging can do to create an elevated life, to create a life for you that is thriving, that is connected, that is full of intimate, real, authentic relationships, and everything that you need for your life to flourish and to thrive. So this is a personal journey. I created the idea of sanctuary, of a sanctuary retreat, based on the way that I live my life. And I have really curated an entire life around the idea of the courage that it takes to care for the spirit that we are, the soul that we are, the being that we are, and to truly care for the life that we are here to live and to truly care for those around us. And what I learned early on as a mom, my son Will is now a senior in college. When he was young, I really learned about the power and the courage that it takes to live a life where rest and relaxation and being authentic and plugged in and connected so vitally important. Because when he was young, I found myself really impatient, really feeling exhausted a lot of the time, really feeling overwhelmed a lot of the time. And I didn't like the way that I was showing up in my relationship with him. I knew that there was a different me, a more evolved me, a different version of me. I knew the kind of mom that I wanted to be, and I knew the kind of relationship that I really wanted to have with him. And yet, in my exhaustion, in my overwhelm, I wasn't showing up in a patient way, in an inspired way, in a creative way, in a connected way, in an inspired way. I wasn't showing up in my joy. I was showing up impatient. And at the beginning, when he was young, I had all the same conditioning, the same imprints as probably most of you all. I held a tremendous amount of mom guilt at the thought of taking care of myself and putting myself on the front burner. And I needed to prove out to myself early on and move through that mom guilt to become the safe haven that I really wanted to be for him. And so those early years were when I really found that taking care of ourselves as women, as individuals, as parents, taking care of ourselves is truly a very courageous act, because over and over and over again, I kept bumping up against the social conditionings, against the social norms that kept telling me that it was selfish for me to take care of myself. It was selfish for me as a mom to rest. It was selfish for me as a caregiver to rest, to resource myself, to replenish myself. I kept bumping up against that conditioning that was over and over and over again reminding me that what I was seeking to do was selfish. So when I first began this journey of self-care, soul care, resting, resourcing myself, connecting with nature, connecting with my own self, unplugging from my outer life, plugging into my inner life, I experienced mom guilt just like most individuals when they are first giving themselves permission, first taking the steps towards self-care, soul care, all of these different practices of restoring ourselves. We typically go through that period of feeling guilty. And I was nervous. I was nervous about what would other people think. I was nervous about taking the time, quote, away from Will, investing in myself, investing financially. And as I moved through that journey early on when he was young, I first was so surprised. It was so unexpected. I did begin to show up to him more patient, more connected, more relaxed. I really liked who I was in relationship to him. And then what I found is that many of the individuals around me, many of the parents around me, I started working with clients in this way, students in this way. And what I began to recognize is that most people around me wanted to be able to give themselves the permission that I was giving myself, because they too wanted to be more patient with their kids. They wanted to be more plugged in with their children, more present, more connected, creating that intimacy, not only with their children, but with their spouses, with their own in-laws, with their own family, with their own coworkers, with their own bodies. So I early on became aware that most individuals wanted exactly what it is that I was curating and cultivating. But as most of us, few give themselves permission to take those first steps because we're fraught with that guilt. And so as I became aware and as I became willing to step into the practices and the steps that I knew inside of me, my heart was prompting me to take, really began to cultivate a completely different way of life for myself. And that led to a completely, radically, dramatically different relationship with Will, with Jamie, with all those in my life. And I started seeing the fruits of that with my clients, with my students. So that was early on. And now, cut to, it's 2025. My son is in college. We have a very close, connected relationship. For any of you who are interested in, and for any of you who are coming to the October retreat, he's flying in from New York to take photos, to take videos, so you'll all meet him, those of you who have not. But we have a very close relationship now. So it's 2025. Since 2019, since COVID, all of my work has moved to online. And I'm very fortunate about that. So I have online clients, I teach online courses, and I've cultivated and created a very close-knit, tight-knit community of coaches that I certify, and we're very close and we're very supportive of each other. and we're learning and growing and evolving together, and there is tremendous safety, there's tremendous intimacy, there's tremendous authenticity. So it's good, good, good. And though we are all longing for and yearning for more in-person experiences, online is amazing because it has gifted me the opportunity to have clients and students from all around the world. And that is wonderful. And people started coming up to me saying how much they missed, how much they are longing for an in-person experience. So this is where Sanctuary was born. I was answering the call that many clients and students were reaching out to me around. Simultaneously, I had, again, nervousness whenever we're called to take that next step, whether it's your own next step into your self-care as a way of life, resting as a sacred and spiritual practice, whatever is your next step, whenever we are prompted from within to grow and stretch and evolve, we are pushed up against our own ceiling, against our own cutting edge, And so I was nervous. I was nervous about the financial investment of renting the hotel space. I was nervous about the financial investment into blocking the rooms. I was nervous about what if nobody comes and I've invested all of this money. So I had my own nervousness at the beginning. And I was walking one day with Jamie. He and I were walking around this park near my house. And so I'm obsessing about this decision. Do I do it? Do I not? Do I do it? Do I not? And the financial investment. And he said to me, I have no doubt that the day after the retreat, you will look back and feel nothing but good about having made the investment, regardless of what happens. And in that moment, I knew that this sanctuary retreat was born, was birthed. I knew I was a yes. I knew I was an all-in yes. And from that moment to this moment, I am still an all-in yes. So my point in sharing that vulnerably, little behind the scenes, is to show you that every one of us who is prompted to grow and stretch and evolve, you're going to bump up against your own preconceived limitations. But it is only a limited indoctrination that you are now perpetuating onto yourself. It's only a belief system that you've taken in from someone else that you are now holding. And the very place inside of you that is prompting you is the very place that is assisting you to liberate yourself and to move into a state of freedom. So ever since the day that Jamie said that to me, I had a full-bodied yes. I made that investment. I sent the money. I have never looked back. And now that the retreat is maybe a month out, a few weeks out, by the time this airs, I am so immersed in the creative process. I am so inspired. Even before I get to the actual retreat, I am a different person. So this is what happens to you when you decide to say yes to your next level, your next prompting. Today, I happen to be talking about the care of your life. You have this one life that you've been gifted. It's yours. We can't get back yesterday. Yesterday is gone. All we have are the decisions that we can make about our current life. And so if you are feeling overwhelmed or exhausted, or if you are seeking to be more deeply inwardly connected with your own self, you are the only one you're going to be in relationship with for sure for the rest of your life. So to invest in creating a loving, compassionate, intimate, connected relationship with yourself will ensure you that then all of the other relationships, like with your children, your in-laws, your spouse, your colleagues, your career, your purpose, your relationship with your finance, with your body, you ensure those relationships to thrive when you are willing to give yourself the permission to unplug from those relationships and invest in yourself. So yes, I hope that some of you will look in the show notes, you will see the link, you will look through the link, and you will be inspired to come to this retreat in Los Angeles in a few weeks in October. And though, whether you come or not, there is a prompting right now within you, because there is a place within you that knows that your life is to be lived full on, full out. And so I'm imploring you, and I'm just encouraging you and hopefully inspiring you to feel into the next baby step, the next breadcrumb step that you can take to invest in your own life, and by extension then, all of the relationships in your life. When you are well fed, when you are well nourished, when you are well rested, then you are able to show back up into these relationships as the higher version of yourself. And all of those relationships will then be well fed, well nourished. You will be present. You will feel connected. And so whatever I can do today to inspire you to look at just the next step. You know, my son Will, I've been talking about him during this episode. He's a senior in college. He deleted all of his social media. That is one small step that he is taking to creating a less distracted life for himself this semester. Maybe there is something that's small to you. Maybe that's not so small to you. Maybe you are going to put your do not disturb notifications on your phone for 1 hour every day. And for 1 hour, you invest in yourself, even if it is that you are doing your laundry and you are washing your dishes. You are doing it in an undistracted way. So whatever is your next breadcrumb, your next action step, you will not be the same person a week from now, a month from now, 3 months from now, if you unplug your phone for 1 hour a day, especially if it's the first hour of the day, a middle hour of the day, and the last few hours of your evening. That is a different episode. It's coming. But today is about listening to the next inspired action. You know, in the Judeo-Christian traditions, we have a Sabbath. So I was raised in the Jewish tradition, and we honored the Sabbath. And that Sabbath, we didn't drive. We didn't connect with our phones. We didn't do technology. That Sabbath was a time of self-reflection, self-contemplation, contemplation of what really matters to us, what really matters. It was a time of unplugging from the world and plugging in to that inner world that is connected to our highest self. And by doing that once a week, it trained our nervous system to relax. I put my hand on my heart so often during the day. I was just talking to a student today, and we were talking about the scientifically researched effects of hugging yourself and what hugging yourself does, not only to your nervous system and how it calms your nervous system, but about how it releases dopamine when you place your hand on your heart, when you send a gesture of loving kindness to yourself. You relax your nervous system, you recalibrate your nervous system, you put your inner life into an inner state of alignment, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Now, most of us know deep down that this makes a lot of sense. Most of us already have the prompting in our heart. Most of us know that we would show up and create a richer quality of life to the degree that we would give ourselves permission to slow down, to rest, to read some poetry, to listen to some music, to connect to art, to connect to each other, to connect to our own heart. Well, that key word there is permission. That's why I call this podcast Permission to Thrive. Why? Because very few of us have been given that permission to take the steps, to take inspired actions, to reflect the prompting that is already in your heart. Your wisdom already knows. The wisdom within you knows that we are not meant to be living a treadmill of going from activity to activity to activity to activity. We know this, and yet we're driving around our kids from activity to activity to activity. We don't have the permission to slow the F down. And when we do slow down, that is when our nervous system relaxes and recalibrates, and that is when we receive this rush from the inside out of dopamine and oxytocin and the rewiring of our brain chemistry that allows us to live the quality of life that we are here and meant to live. What I always say about soul care and self-care is that it's free. It is absolutely free. At any moment, any time, day or night, I can put my hand on my heart and say something kind and loving to myself. I can do that 100 times a day. I can do that 1,000 times a day. At any moment of any day, I can listen to a piece of music. I can take a walk outside around my block. I can pick up my dog or an animal if you all have one. Pet your animal. You can unplug your phone. There are so many activities that you can do that are absolutely free. Why I always say it's a courageous act is because often we feel guilty. We don't give ourselves permission to do the very thing that we know. And I think the only thing that makes me different from maybe many of you guys is just that I gave myself permission, and it came out of, honestly, not really liking the way I was showing up as a mom. Before I was a mom, it was easy for me to take care of myself. You know, I was responsible to myself and for myself, and only to and for myself. Many of you out there are caring for your parents. I have so many clients right now and students right now who are caring for elderly parents or parents who are moving through some kind of physical issues and challenges. And so it is often challenging and does require the courage from us to give ourselves permission that says, the wisdom in me knows that I am going to be the caregiver that I seek to be to the degree that I'm willing to invest in myself. And so, yes, I do say it is absolutely an act of courage and a courageous way of life, truly, a courageous way of life. And though the quality of life that I've curated makes me know that it's more powerful than anything else I could possibly do. And so I live this thriving life, and I'm grateful to it because I allowed myself to take those first steps and move through that guilty stage. And in fact, I wrote an entire book about it called The Motherhood Evolution, How Thriving Mothers Raise Thriving Children. I wrote an entire book about my own journey to encourage and inspire you to take your own journey. So I think the last thing that I'd like to leave you with is a guided meditation, a guided process around giving yourself this permission to take a very small inspired action. So why taking inspired action is so important? Because when we are in our mind and we're trying to decide, should I invest in that retreat? Should I go take that walk around the park? Should I stop in the middle of my day and unplug my phone for 20 minutes, an hour? Should I ask my children's friends to put their phones at the front door? All of these different things, these actions, these inspired actions, when we ruminate about it in our head, like I was ruminating about doing this retreat or not, I was ruminating about doing the retreat or not. The more we ruminate, the more dense, the more stuck, the more the patterns indoctrinate themselves within us. It was the moment that I said yes, that I took the risk, that I paid the down payment, I called the hotel. It was from that moment of taking the inspired action. Now, you don't have to put 5 figures down. You don't have to take a huge action. You're just called to take the next inspired action. It could be calling a friend and going to lunch with a friend. It could be unplugging your phone during your day. It could be disconnecting from social media. Whatever it is that will move you from ruminating in your head to taking an action, taking an inspired action. One small inspired action after another, you see, the challenge is rarely that we don't know what we need to fulfill us. The challenge is actually carrying through the inspired actions that will inspire us and encourage us to live that quality of life that we know is within us. So the more you stay in your head trying to decide, the harder you make it for yourself. So whatever is that small next action step, the sooner you take it, the faster you are going to call forward into that next version of yourself. Right now, you may be identifying yourself as someone who's challenged and limited in taking care of yourself. But the more and the faster and the sooner you take that first action step, the faster you're going to call forward and step into the next identity, the next version of yourself. So I hope that this is proving out to you that as you begin to give yourself permission, take those inspired actions, you are the one that is going to be a different person. You start saying yes to these small inspired actions a week from now, a month from now, you are going to be a different person. The cells of your body are going to be different. And how are you going to know this? Because you're going to show up to your children, to your parents, to your coworkers, to yourself as a more relaxed version of yourself, a more connected version of yourself. You know what's being called forth from you. Just need to give yourself permission to take that inspired action. You're going to prove to yourself that your relationships with those around you are going to be so much richer, so much more connected, so much more intimate. You're going to see that you matter, that they matter, that you are seen, that they are seen. And as you do this, that gives you the muscle to then take that next inspired action and create rest as a way of life. Create rest as something that's sacred. Create rest as something that no one and no thing outside of you could ever tell you that it's not the most powerful resource that you have. Because when you are resourced, you are operating at your best. The time that you invest will come back to you with joy and inspiration and creativity and abundance and prosperity and expansion. I promise you this, it's only that I have given myself permission and moved through the guilt and the first sludgy stages that I have this life here that I know if it's possible for me, it is absolutely possible for you. So let's move into a moment of meditation. Let's anchor this in our bodies, in our mind, with our emotions, and let's anchor it spiritually. So if, assuming you're not driving, you just gently close your eyes. If you're driving, just keep listening and envisioning. Just don't close your eyes. but just gently close your eyes for just a moment. For just a moment, place your hand on your own heart. For just a moment, feel your breath going in through your nostrils, back through your back of your throat, and filling up your lungs. Just for a moment, say to yourself, I'm so grateful. I appreciate myself for listening to this episode, for even being interested in what's calling me to live a more inspired, resourced life. Just take a moment to touch in, tune in, tap in to this rich quality of life that is calling you, that is absolutely free. It costs you nothing. It costs you nothing to right now be willing to have compassion for yourself and say, I love you, self. I like you, self. I'm here for you, self. I am willing to rest. I am willing to be resourced. I am willing to be recalibrated. I am willing for my nervous system to relax. I am willing to plug into something that can truly resource me. I am willing to unplug from the distractions, even if for just a small amount of time. And through your own willingness and your own self-appreciation, just ask yourself, what is it that would make today a richer quality of life for you? Maybe it is talking to yourself kindly while you're doing your dishes. Maybe it's talking to yourself kindly when you're driving to pick up your kids from school. Maybe it is unplugging from social media for an hour today. Maybe it is deciding how can you retreat and unplug for 10 minutes or 10 hours, or maybe for a weekend in October with me in Los Angeles. If this is calling to you, at least do yourself a favor and at least go to the link in the show notes and at least look through the link. At least email me, at least call me, at least reach out. You have nothing to lose. There are a few spaces available. I know it will sell out, but if you feel called, call me. But whatever it is, whatever is calling you, whatever is prompting you, appreciate yourself for listening to the prompting. Appreciate yourself for listening to the calling. And decide, make a decision to take one small step in the direction of rest, resourcing yourself, unplugging. Take one step in the direction of cultivating a richer quality of life by taking care of yourself, by taking care of your soul, by taking care of your life, this one precious life that you've been gifted. Do that for 10 minutes, do that for a day, do that for 10 minutes a day until next week when I see you again. So much love, everyone. I love you. I am so appreciative. I love hearing from you. I love receiving all of your DMs, your emails, telling me how you are using and utilizing whatever it is that I'm sharing for the week in your daily lives. Keep connected, stay connected, communicate with me. And I do invite you to come in October. You will be received and welcomed in the most beautiful, loving community that you have ever imagined. We're such a close community, and you will be welcomed in our hearts, in our arms, and I promise you, in just one weekend, you will not be the same. Gift yourself a weekend with me. Peace and love, and see you all next week. So much love, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If there was something in this conversation that spoke to you, We'd so appreciate it if you would take the time to subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and share this episode with women and mothers you know, because you are here to thrive. See you next time.